So we'll start by doing, as promised, a quick overview of APA PsycInfo. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this database that APA offers. We are coming up now on 6 million records, so that's always exciting. And this is our abstracting and indexing database, very multidisciplinary, pretty much covers the entire spectrum of behavioral and social sciences. And it really does span all levels. So entry level students who are just getting started with their first research project, practitioners, instructors who are needing examples, seasoned researchers. It's really good for research discovery across, all levels of experience. We move to the next page. And you'll see on the next page, there is an image, and that is of APA PsycInfo's research services. And we'll talk more about that at the end of the webinar, but this is our AI-powered research assistant tool. It is not a large language model. It's not writing anything, but it really helps cut through the noise of tons of research articles that aren't necessarily relevant to your users and helps them focus on their niche, their topics of interest. It's great for research discovery and learning new journals, new articles to follow that they may not have thought of before. And you'll see a bit of info on this slide about metadata involved in PsycInfo and some of the scenarios we see PsycInfo most frequently being used. So we'll skip to the next slide. Of course, we have APA PsycArticles, which is our full text database of journal articles. APA publishes over 110 journals, and we're just over 240,000 very rigorously vetted full text articles. And when we say rigorously vetted, we do mean that our citation footprint for APA's journals is more than double our article output. And I will put a link in the chat for more information on that just in a minute, but we really are dedicated to editorial excellence. So when you're referring your users to APA PsycArticles, they are receiving very authoritative, trusted content, which isn't always easy to come by these days. So very important. And a few more scenarios that we tend to see APA PsycArticles being used in the most. So with those intros out of the way, I will pass things over to Marta, who will go into each of our examples for the day and our demos. And I will just say, as a quick housekeeping item, these personas are not real people. We've come up with them in our imaginations based off of a lot of back and forth that we have had with customers over decades. So with that being said, I will pass things on to you, Marta.
Okay, thanks, Cambria, for the intro. I've also gone ahead in the outgoing chat feature, added a PDF version of this slide deck in case you want to follow along, download it after our time together is done. So now that we've covered the most familiar databases, APA PsycInfo and APA PsycArticles, it's time to talk about APA PsycTests. As you may guess from the name, this is designed about tests, measures, and scales that are used in psychology and related research. This content grows very directly out of PsycInfo and PsycArticles. A psych test record is going to focus on the test itself, but it's going to have this DOI that links back to that APA PsycInfo or APA PsycArticle publication where the test was developed. So part of the reason we break out APA PsycTests to be a related database, but still its own thing, is because of all the bolded fields you see here. Over half the fields are specific to the test content, both searchable and then descriptive on the record page. So some examples about how we're creating these test specific fields for you. You can see test methodology and instrument type. They're set up as filters or pick list. Our APA staff indexers have given like a set list of possible values to try to help you very quickly focus on finding a test that you can use for research or instruction purposes rather than having to make up your own from scratch if something is already out there. Whereas other fields like the factors and subscales or the reliability and validity are free text. So we're capturing that information exactly the way that the author and the test developer put it into their research. And the source citation key field is going to be key. That's the one that will link us back and forth between APA PsycTest and then back to APA PsycInfo or APA PsycArticles. Okay, so we're going to meet Professor Neha, our first researcher. We're going to go to do a demo alongside. She teaches a research methods and a statistics class, right? So she's an instructor looking for course examples, and she's going to go into APA PsycTest and try to find some things she can use in her class. And the topic she's looking for is going to be resilience. So now we're going to go ahead and open up APA PsycNet. Okay, so here we are on APA PsycNet. If you get your APA databases from EBSCO, ProQuest, or Ovid, you can still follow along, still benefit from these demos. No matter which platform version of PsycInfo or PsycTests you have, the records are the same, the searchable fields are the same, the full text is the same, the content is the same. It's really just a difference in like design and layout. So today we're going to start by searching APA PsycTest. Even compared to the other databases, you remember that slide with all those bolded fields, you can search it on its own to get best results, right? So our Professor Neha is looking for a psych test that is about resilience. So for tests, I like to start using construct as our topic term. I'm going to start typing in resilience. You see, there are some word variations based on how the authors have reported the construct, but the PsycNet platform is smart enough to kind of show every match. So I'm going to go ahead and use my search term with the asterisk wildcard, which means include any of these word variations. So that's the topic part of our search setup. Another two key fields for Neha or any PsycTest researcher to filter on are going to be, first of all, the test available. Check that, and it will limit the search results to just the tests that have the PDF included with the record. That's about half of them have the PDF available. And then the other key filter for getting started is permissions. And you want to set that to may use for research teaching. So again, our indexers have done a lot of this work for you. They've turned the complicated world of academic publishing permissions into just a few potential types. So you can see at a glance, you can filter your search based on, like starting with basically the easiest, right? If the permission says may use for research teaching, that's a good example for Neha to be able to take that PDF, share it within some sort of secure campus network, and then use it for those instructional purposes. So with our topic, construct, and our two best filters, we're ready to run the search. I will go ahead and show a couple additional filters that are specific to test. So you can filter based on instrument type, if that is important to you. And then finally, there's a field called test methodology. Here, methodology is actually talking about statistics or psychometrics. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can read this. So for this time, our Professor Neha is looking for an example in research methods, thinking about how to develop a test. But if she's coming back later for a search about statistics, this is a way to really hone in on a particular type of statistical analysis for a test and measure. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run this search now. Resilience, test available, and permissions may use for research teaching. And here we see on the PsycTest results page, all of these have that PDF of the test attached, and you see the word resilience is being highlighted as a construct. I like Mount Sinai Resilience Scale, so we can use that as our example alongside NEHA. You can open up the PDF test. That happens sometimes. Just refresh the page. There it is. So you can view the test directly from the results page. All of our PsycTest PDFs start with this cover sheet, which gives some basic information. And then the rest of the PDF is going to show those question items specifically. All right, so I'll close this PDF tab. Now go ahead and open the descriptive record. We can learn a little more about these test items right here. So when you're in a PsycTest record, you always have that PDF linked again here, and the test profile is the main thing we're looking at. So right at the top, you're going to see the construct. This is how we searched in this case, the purpose, and then the description. So this is telling you what this test is about or what it is seeking to measure, basically in a phrase, in a sentence, and then in a paragraph. This description is analogous to an abstract that you might find over in PsycInfo or PsycArticles. Scrolling down a bit more, we have that permission statement we filtered by. Several fields for author information in case any researchers might want to contact them to ask a question or trace other research that they've been involved in. More test-specific fields are here. We see the format, the administration method, the number of items that are telling us very specifically how this test was given to the participants. Factors and subscales, again, reported as the author reported them. So if you're ever searching using test construct and you're finding like you're having some trouble finding a good fit, you can go do another search on the factors and subscales field, right? Because this test is measuring resilience, but there are smaller clusters of test items that are measuring these different factors, right? So just another way to make the search work for you a little better. We talked about the test methodology filter, telling us in a general way about the statistics used here in this particular psych test development, but we also have these three open-ended free text fields where the author is providing all the information, the numbers, the data about the specific types of psychometrics they applied to assess the reliability, the validity, and the factors of their test. And then finally, in addition to the pretty broad level population group, a psych test record is going to include population details. In some cases, they can be very specific about the participants who were recruited, right? So this is a pretty good start for Neha and her research methods course. We have the PDF, we have this description of the test itself, but we can go deeper, right? And that's where this source citation field comes in. It's so crucial. It has its own tab. And what this does is going to link back to the PsycInfo or PsycArticles record where the test was developed. And you can see the title is basically just development and validation of this scale. So they have the match like that. I'll follow the PsycInfo link. And this is going to take me to the full, so today we're getting, so this is the PsycArticles record. And then we can open another tab right next to it. That is the PsycArticles full text, right? So we started by searching PsycTests, and now we've been able to use the source citation to move back into PsycArticles. So here we are in the full text. If you're looking for development or any use of the test, the method is often a good place to start. There's a lot of words on this page. At a high level, we see there are some little italicized concepts here, like altruism and spirituality, optimism. We see that they are sort of incorporating some of these factors in their scale development. It talks about recruiting the participants, the procedure, and then it goes into a list of other measures that have made up this new Mount Sinai Resilience Scale. So this is a really good example of how to create a test. It's linking us to other types of, research that's been developing these related tests. But I'm still not seeing our test items in context themselves. So I'm going to leave PsycArticles for a moment and go back to the PsycTest tab. One final test specific field that can be really helpful is called test location. And this is going to actually give you the location by page number in that PsycArticles, in this case, where that test was developed. It said it was within the supplemental materials. So this journal article had a little add-on document. A Word doc is attached. So it's got a bit more information here. And if I keep scrolling down, then we come to those test items themselves, right? So just a little bit of a time saver that the Psych test record will tell you where exactly to look for that test in the full text where it was developed. So a final thing, we're going to go now into the PsycArticles descriptive record, right? So this is PsycArticles, and I want to show you just one field here, and it's called the test and measures field towards the bottom, right? So this is the Mount Sinai Resilience Scale. That's where we started in PsycTests. You can follow this DOI and open it right back up, right? So if you're in PsycTest, you can follow source citation. If you're in PsycInfo or PsycArticles, you can follow the links in the test and measures field. So that's how they're always interlinking back to each other, right? But as we saw sort of briefly in the methodology or the method section of the PsycArticles, they used a bunch of other tests to develop this one test. So if we're interested in one of the factors or subscales, or we're interested in this other older resilience scale, now we have there's an additional discovery opportunity, right? So basically, in summary, going back to our advanced search page, you can start in PsycTest and search by a construct and apply your full text and your permissions filters, right? So we did all that. But you can also start in PsycInfo PsycArticles, maybe add a thesaurus term, and you can use the test and measures field, right? So I could look for published research that is about that word resilience. So I can search, again, within PsycInfo using that one test and measures field. I can search this way by resilience, or I could go into Mount Sinai resilience and search by the test name, right? So depending on your research style, there's a few different ways you can enter. Searching for tests, first searching using that test and measures field, but wherever you start, it's very easy to go back and forth between the two resources using that linking. So that is the end of our time with Neha and the PsycTests demonstration. If we have questions, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and we're going to look at that at the end of all the demos. So what we're doing right now is going to open up PsycBooks, APA PsycBooks. So this is a little bit more similar to PsycInfo and PsycArticles. I sometimes think of APA PsycBooks as being like the sister of APA PsycArticles. The things they have in common is they're both entirely full text because all the content inside is published by APA, right? PsycInfo is much bigger, and it can include published research from many different publishers, but the full text in PsycInfo kind of depends on what else your library subscribes to, whereas PsycArticles and PsycBooks have that full text PDF attached every single time. In addition, you can use an identical search strategy for APA PsycInfo, PsycArticles, and PsycBooks, right? A big thing I was emphasizing for PsycTest is that it has its own specific set of searchable fields and filters. But for PsycBooks, you can be using the same classification codes and the same thesaurus terms and the same, keywords and everything like that. Another way that it feels a lot like PsycArticles or another journals database is because our PsycBooks has chapter level records and chapter level PDFs. So there's no weird, like special ebook formatting situations. You have unlimited simultaneous access. You don't have any checkout periods. You don't have anything tied with DRM to particular types of formats. You're just getting the PDF. And APA does also provide MARC records that you can add to your catalog for all your PsycBooks holdings. This demo is going to be a little bit of a twofer. We're going to start in APA PsycBooks, and then we're going to move into Academic Writer. Academic Writer is a little bit different. It's not a database for research, but it is a writing assisted tool where you can begin to craft your own research. It's very focused on APA style, so it will be able to automate and check things about citations, references, headings, running head, title page, and all those sorts of things so that anyone who's using Academic Writer can be focused primarily on the writing and the synthesizing of their ideas and have a lot of the APA style stuff be done for them, or to have like assisted learning, in context while they're creating this stuff. Okay, so our second co-researcher today is Camilla. She's an undergrad student and is researching, her topic is human factors engineering. This is an undergrad, so it's not quite at the level of like a true dissertation, but this might be a semester length or even a year length kind of capstone project or big term paper, something that as an undergrad she'll be researching over and writing over weeks to months instead of having like a more brief response paper or just an annotated bibliography. So with Camilla, we'll start researching in APA PsycBooks, and then we will move into citing and writing within Academic Writer. Okay, so here we are back on APA PsycNet. To start in this case, I'm going to select info articles and PsycBooks all together because they all share the same fields. So you're not really losing anything by doing this. With PsycBooks, great place to start is the thesaurus, the same way you might for your PsycInfo and PsycArticles research. So we'll say at this point, Camilla's done a bit of articles research already. She's read some of the foundational, most cited articles. She's keeping up with some of the newest issues or the online first releases according to her search terms. But now we're going to move into looking at those PsycBooks, right? So basically, you're just getting more full text for the search strategy that you're already using. And of course, a book can provide sort of broader context, a more theoretical foundation, some deeper analysis. You have a lot more like room to write about a topic in a psych book. So that's how I can kind of really complement the like very specific of the moment articles. And then books can, be a useful thing to facilitate that deeper understanding, right? So here we are on the PsycBooks results page. As promised, everything has that PDF of the chapter attached. And you can see over here, we're getting records that are chapter type instead of like article type. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open up this chapter. And you can see how this indexing is working. There's a citation here. So every chapter is going to have often its own list of authors. Sometimes you'll get one set of people who is editing the book, but many content chapters will be written by different authors. You get your own abstract at the chapter level. And also crucially, we're scrolling down into these 3 topic search fields. Again, if you're using PsycInfo and PsycArticles already, these might seem familiar to you, but every chapter in the book is getting its own keywords, index terms, and classification code. We'll show how that's extra helpful in just a moment. And when you're in a book chapter record, there's this link to go to the book's table of contents. So this is loading up right now. So you see the book overall is going to have its citation, its editors or authors, and then its own book description. Anything that's not included in a chapter PDF will be grouped into either front matter or back matter. So you are getting the whole entire book, even though we're not really indexing, say, like an index or a table of contents in the same way. So I'll open up a couple more chapters here as examples, going into their new tabs. So again, Camilla, our undergrad, is searching for human factors engineering. So a handbook on occupational health is a very good fit. She matched to this book overall and to many of its chapters, but you might have other cases, right? So this chapter 5, again, scrolling down quickly to the topic terms, this chapter is dealing with COVID-19, pandemics, and like infectious diseases. Like that's one aspect of occupational safety. And then going into chapter 8 over here, now we're talking about cross-cultural issues. So some of the keywords in this chapter are talking about cross-cultural consideration, sociocultural factors. So there may be a situation where someone runs a search and the book overall is not really a match, but one or two chapters might be. So that's how this chapter level indexing is benefiting our undergrads like Camilla. You're getting a lot more detail with the chapter level abstracts, and you're also making it more searchable. A final thing we're going to show about PsycBooks is the browse feature. You can browse any of our APA databases here with the exception of APA PsycInfo, simply because it's just way too big to be realistically browsing it. So for browsing APA PsycBooks, we add new books once every month. So the July set will be coming soon. Our latest release here is for June. So you can jump right to the latest release of books. Going by release date, you can go back a few more months. And you can also browse by topic. Right. So Camilla's still an undergrad. She has this one course assignment that's focused on human factors engineering, but she's probably taking a pretty wide variety of other courses as well. So if we're talking about sort of the core curriculum for undergrad psychology, we're also going to get book collections that are grouped around schizophrenia, social psychology, statistics, as well as some interdisciplinary type books, right? We have sex and gender roles, we have sports, and then we have special education, right? So our books, like our other databases, really do take that interdisciplinary approach to human behavior and mental health that can cover a lot of different undergrad degrees. Okay. So now I'm jumping back to our recent searches. I'm going to go back to this results page that we have on the PsycBooks tab. So what I'm going to do now is we've run our research and we like a couple of these chapters. And we want to save them to use in Camilla's term project, right? You can select the whole page, or you can just select the couple that you like. And when you've made your selections, you can go to export right here. There's a few different ways you can export. The default reference software is going to download this special file type, which you can then upload to different places. You can also download as a Microsoft Excel, or you can send your references directly into some of these major reference managers. In this case, we're going to send our references directly into Academic Writer. So there we go. So I was logged into my little personal account within PsycNet. It's free. You just have to make one, and then I'm able to like save research there. So this same APA account, it's like the identical login that you can use for Academic Writer. So it took me over here, and I'm already logged into Academic Writer, right? In this case, I would be Camilla, but we're seeing my name. Um, and confirm you're about to import these references. Yes, that's what I want to do. So it was successful. I can import more, or I can view what I've just done, right? The updated newest, there we go. So this is my references list in Academic Writer. In this example, Camilla has already been using Academic Writer quite a bit. She has many established references and papers. For any of these references, you can add notes to it. And if it was imported, you can open this little stamp. It tells you the source and the file name. So you can kind of see, like there's the newest 2, but once we go down to level 3, that came from a different batch. So that's my references. In my file cabinet, instead of my references, I can also move into my papers. And multicultural office design. That's what we're working on right now, this paper. So the main thing Academic Writer can do for you is helping with that citation, right? So where I want to place a citation, you can go ahead, insert, find and cite reference, or you can right click. So find and cite reference. I can search for keywords. I can filter these in different way. I'm just going to go with the newest one I just added, select it, and cite. It asked me a couple formatting questions, and here we go. I've got this in-text citation, and it has also been added automatically to my paper reference list. Finkelman and Gomberg. Sorry for the zooming around. There we go. It's in the paper reference the paper reference list, and it's confirmed that it's been cited in the text. So that's like a major use case for Academic Writer. Beyond the citations and reference, Academic Writer can help you format your title page, including your running head. In the body, it can help you with your headings. Up in format, it sort of reminds you of the order of headings and how they're supposed to look. It'll do that for you. At any time, you can move into the preview tab to see how the different components, the title page, the body, and the references are going to look together. This is very much a draft in progress, but it's sort of showing how Academic Writer takes the different typing and then makes it into like a fully formatted final paper, or in this case, a draft paper. When you're done or done enough for a draft version, there are 7 different, or maybe 9 different checks you can run. Just double checking that references and headings and things like grammatical style are all going correctly the way you want them. It's not gonna like force your hand. Most of these checks, it's gonna call your attention, and then the user gets to decide how they want to resolve it. And then when you're finally done, you can get your paper as a Word or a PDF, just those normal file types. So this was a very high-level basic overview of Academic Writer. My colleagues offer trainings, and we have some past recordings that just spends like a whole 45 to 60 minutes in this platform, because there is so much detail when you're focusing on APA style. But the point is, you can jump into references and papers, as we've just shown you. And if you're brand new, you can always start adding references using these many forms. It's going to prompt you for the fields, create a reference. And if you're new, you can start a new paper, again, picking from one of a few different formats. Camilla is always fine to start with a basic paper. The main difference is some of them might have like headings pre-populated based on the type of paper you select. Okay, so that was that demo. Researching PsycBooks and taking some of that citations into Academic Writer. Our third and final research example for today is going to be APA PsycTherapy. This one's a little bit different. All the tools we've seen so far are very verbal focused. They're all collections of words, basically, the printed word. APA PsycTherapy is a video collection. So each record includes a long video. We're talking 50 or 45 minutes of a therapist and their client having an unscripted actual therapeutic session. There's about 1,000 videos. We update this twice a year. And within those 1,000 videos, we are trying to cover a pretty wide variety. You see, we have 100 different approaches and about 245 topics of psychotherapy. So when you're looking at the topics and approaches, some are going to be very classic and others are going to be a little more emerging. So some common topics, as you might expect, are anxiety, depression, trauma, couples and family issues. And we also have things around identity and social acceptance that may be informed by a client's gender identity, sexual orientation, or cultural background. And similarly, in the approaches, we have cognitive behavioral therapy, we have exposure therapy for certain types of phobias, we have EMDR, the eye movement that can help with post-traumatic stress disorder, and then we have culturally sensitive and gender affirming therapeutic approaches. So really something for everybody in this collection. And the therapists in these videos are often those who either invented the technique or invented the approach that they're demonstrating. The oldest videos here are from 2011. So for some of these approaches that are a little older than 2011, we pick therapists who are really preeminent in their field, are doing work to sort of modernize the trainings. So that's another thing that's a little different about APA psychotherapy. The oldest things are from 2011. In the others, you can find some pretty old archival content. In PsycTests and PsycBooks, there's historical as well as, most recently updated. But in APA psychotherapy, for better or worse, we do not have any Sigmund Freud video examples. Okay, so our final co-researcher is going to be Jordan. He's a grad student who's going to focus on couples and family counseling as his degree. As he gets toward the end of his studies, he's ready to sort of move from theory into more practice. You can understand sort of the foundation and the guidelines and the best practices of being a therapist. But as we move into the videos, he's going to also be able to demonstrate some of those softer interpersonal skills, as well as see common obstacles that are faced during therapy sessions. In particular, Jordan is interested in a sort of new emerging therapeutic technique that's called relational savoring. So with that, we will go back into PsycNet and start with a new search. In this case, I'm going to select all of our databases side by side. Relational savoring is not yet in the thesaurus, so I'm going to go ahead and search it as any field, just so we can see the full extent of what is out there moving through these databases. So here we go. And again, you start with the first tab of all results, but we can also move through it one resource at a time. Well, PsycInfo has a good mix of results here. We've got some journal articles. Scrolling through, I'm also seeing a lot of dissertations. This makes sense given that this is an emerging topic, something people will want to do their dissertations on. But if I'm not looking for that today, I'll show you a nice trick with our document type filter, right? So you can always go ahead and select the document types that you want to see. Maybe you'll limit it to only journal articles or book chapters, but you can also just say is not. So we're going to go back and get that same results list, but just doing it document type is not filter. All the dissertations are going to be removed. So the hit counts for PsycInfo has gone down a bit now. Okay, so we see what PsycInfo has to offer. Moving into PsycArticles. getting all of the full text. I'm also going to go ahead and drop down the author filter. In this case, I'm not going to filter, but I'm noticing the names of who is sort of writing the most in this case. So Jessica Borelli's name has come to the top. She's actually been involved in all 5 of the PsycArticle publications. So she seems pretty important in this field. Like maybe she's the one who invented or at least popularized this concept of relational savoring. We see this in books. Jessica Borelli has written a book and also many of the chapters in that book about relational savoring. There are a few conference presentations. Again, we see Jessica Borelli doing this a little more than 10 years ago. So perhaps this is sort of like you can kind of see her research journey, right? Starting at conference abstracts, publishing articles, eventually a book. The term is a little too new for PsycTests, but this relates to attachment, and you can definitely find some tests that are related to attachment. And then finally, our Jessica Borelli, I guess we should say Dr. Borelli, is a therapist. So she has written on this, but she has also contributed a couple example videos of her using this technique. So from here, we're going to go ahead and open up APA PsycTherapy and be taken to the video platform. An important note about access, you're always going to have to start PsycTherapy on a PsycNet page or maybe on an EBSCO page. Make sure that you know and have like shared on your library's site your own specific link for PsycTherapy. If you try to go directly to the video platform, you won't be recognized as a customer and you'll hit a paywall. But coming through here, which is sort of where your APA databases live, that's going to authenticate you as we move through. And we're opening up this video. You see it's authenticating. And here we go. We're now on the video page. So at the bottom, you're going to get some of these accessible video controls. Start the video, add the captions, turn the sound off. We have a tab right here for segments. So this particular therapist-client interaction has already been divided into like several segments within the session. There's also discussion, like sort of like a pre and post interview with the therapist and this host. So if you jump to different parts of the video, this transcript runs the entire length of this hour-and-a-half runtime. So wherever you are in the video, the transcript is following along. And if you remember like a key phrase from an earlier part, you can jump right there. Because yeah, this is like a very long transcript. But if you're able to remember like a key word or a phrase in an exchange, you can go right back to that part of the video. Yeah, the metadata here is kind of brief compared to some of our other tools. The main 3 fields are going to be approach, therapist, and topic. So you can like go here from the bottom of the video page. It's going to tell you already how many total videos there are. Okay, so we got our video. Now we're looking at this topic. At any time, you can go to the PsycTherapy homepage. Another chance to browse by those main fields. We have a couple search tools as well, if you want to look that way. And the final thing I want to show is the teaching guide. Even though it says teaching guide, it can be useful for other types of users, like Jordan, our grad student. I'm going to skip ahead to chapter 11. But basically, the main thing you'll get in this video, first of all, there's like a little bibliography included that's going to point back to PsycInfo. And then there's this chart of suggested videos. So I like chapter 11 because it has topics going down and then approaches going across. So for the topic of anger or anxiety, it recommends 4 different videos by title and by control number. To see basically how does this approach handle this topic. This could be a really great thing for a grad student like Jordan. And yeah, scrolling down, we see family relations, right? And then the 4 different approaches to it. Jumping back to the PsycTherapy homepage now. Sure, you can look up those lists as individual titles or control numbers, but you can also search a list overall. So Jordan's institution, the same as yours, comes with these teaching guide recommended lists already a part of it. So this was the chart we just saw comparing approaches. And there's also another list here, which is suggested sessions for common problems with beginning therapist, right? So you can search your way here, you can browse your way here, and you can also take advantage of these sort of preloaded lists as a way to get started on APA PsycTherapy. Okay, so with that, we're going to switch back to our closing slides. What do you have for me, Cambria?
Well, first off, thank you for the awesome demo. You're always an all-star at this. So we have a couple I'd like to get through if we can. So a couple questions about PsycTests. And I tried to put a few resources in the chat as well. But we have one about construct as one of the metadata fields and asking if that is similar to a keyword when it comes to the tests. And long story short, yes, it's the thing that the test is designed to measure. It's the phenomena or concept that you're wanting to test. So maybe we can go look at some of the example constructs just to make that a bit more concrete, Marta.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. So the keywords field still appears in PsycTest. I'm going to go back to a test profile as an example. You get the construct at the top, and it's like a singular word. It's like, what does this test measure? In this case, student goal orientation. Further down, you are still going to get keywords, right? So there are several keywords for any psych test, but there's only one construct, right? So if you're having trouble searching by construct, it might make finding what you want, it might make sense to turn to keywords. But there is also the option, I know we talked about PsycBooks browse, but PsycTests also has a browse option. So you can browse by construct. I'm going to go ahead to money, right? So again, we're in PsycTest browse, we're looking at constructs. I typed in the keyword money, and there is a bunch of different related constructs. This is not like a controlled pick list, the way that the APA thesaurus and the classifications, that there's a limited set of values. This is just sort of how the author chose to describe their own construct. So you can kind of see how many tests are matching to each of those constructs. Is there a particular like topic you're curious about, or just kind of the difference between construct and keywords? Basically, keywords, there's like 6 or 7 of them, and then for the construct, there's usually just 1 or 2 per test, and they're considered like, you can think about them as like the most important keywords, is what the test is really, really designed to measure.
Yeah, I think that addresses it well. Thank you.
Mhm.
Another like tests related question about if there are instructions for scoring within the test records. You might know more than that or more than me on that, Marta. I do know that there part of the metadata is also contact information for the test authors. So if there is something that you want to know more about, there usually is a way to reach out to the researcher to clarify.
Yeah, so the answer is sometimes. Sometimes instructions might be found as part of the test questions PDF. Sometimes you can find your way back to instructions in the original journal article, right? So sometimes you'll find more about the instructions, the administration, the scoring in the full text of the source article. Sometimes it will be included in the PDF of the test. But if you can't, but Cambria is absolutely right. If you can't find what you're looking for between the psych test and the underlying article record, that's the time where you might want to reach out to the author and ask any additional questions about like the content or the administration of that test.
Mm. And then if you're able to pull up academic writer again while I'm
Oh yeah.
I know it takes a second since you logged out. We also have a question about if there's an option to import articles from other databases. And I know the answer to that question is no, but there is the option to import references from other databases via the import tab through those kind of third-party providers if you wanted to pull that list up.
So academic writer is not intended to hold a bunch of articles. I think that may be true in some other cases, like maybe in RefWorks or places like that. You can upload the PDF alongside the reference. We don't really do that here. Um, we get the abstract. You can get the link right back to the reference in many cases. Like some of the reference types recommend you include the DOI of the journal, right? So you should be able to trace your way back to the article or other document that you're citing, but it's not going to actually have it as an attachment in Academic Writer. So I hope that answers the question there.
I think that does. If you're able to pull up from the import tab of the references, just those other providers where people can pull their references in from, that might be a
Oh, yeah, great point. Okay, back to PsycNet now. None of these are fun trending topics. Jeez. All right. So we're just on any old results list right now. And when you're going to export, so you can download a file as the special like reference type file. You can download in Excel, export to Academic Writer, and then the other ones we have are RefWorks, EndNote, Mendeley, and Zotero. I know I don't think I have an EndNote account myself at the moment, but if you open it up for EndNote, it is going to try to like take you into a page and load them up very directly in a similar way. Whereas in other cases, like if I chose EndNote desktop, it would just do the download for me, right? We see that popping up over here. So basically, if the citation manager tool lets you go directly from browser into browser, that's beautiful and smooth. But if for some reason it doesn't work out, you can just download and upload the file, and it's like only a couple of extra clicks.
and then on the academic writer side, it works with all of those platforms as well. If you already have access to one of those and you want to pull them into academic writer, you can kind of complete that full circle there.
Yes, exactly. So you see here, upload RIS file. So RIS is just that standard reference type. So you can upload RIS files that originated in these different places, right? In theory, the citation is going to look the same, but we include like the other platforms that host PsycInfo, EBSCO, Ovid, ProQuest, and we include the same big four, EndNote, Mendeley, RefWorks, and Zotero, right? So that basically just makes sure that we're importing as accurately as possible, based on the framework the place is using. Yeah. So if you're going to import from somewhere that's not PsycNet, select your file origin, and then you download whatever records you want from RefWorks and you upload them here. Right? I don't have one, but you just pick it from your desktop and you upload it, and there you go. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Marta. If you
That's
want
a
to,
great clarifying question. Thank you for that.
thank you. If you want to put it on that last slide, we're just at the hour, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. I want to say thank you again to everybody who spent the hour with us. I did put one last link in the chat. If there was anything you saw today that you would like more info about, a free trial or a quote, feel free to click that. We will get you set up. We will send the PowerPoint slides to you all along with the recording as well. So you will get all the info that was in these slides, all of the links, so you don't have to memorize everything. And thank you for your demo, Marta, and thank you to all who joined us today.
And I'll say real quick, if you had a question in the Q&A or in your registration that did not get addressed, as soon as this is done, I'm going to go look at them and I'll send you an email if we didn't have time to get to it today.
Thanks, Marta.
Thank you.